Hello, friends, and welcome to episode number 39 of Nostalgia Talk. Ha! I was right on count that time. Last time I almost lost my count. This is episode number 39, one show away from the big 4-0. God, that's unbelievable, especially because it's been almost a year since I started doing this podcast. But here we are, 39 episodes later. I'm James, and today on Nostalgia Talk, I am very happy to have with me Paul McGinnis.
And what you guys out there do not get to hear is what precedes the beginning of this, which is James counting down. Are you ready to go? 5, 4, 3, 2, and then it's just all balloons and bubbles.
Yeah, all downhill from here.
Uphill. I mean, that's a downhill. It's a good downhill. It's like a slide. Yeah. It's like a snow slide. Hi.
How's it going, Paul?
Good. My wife and I moved to Jersey last year, speaking of snow slides, and there's this great hill near our house, and every winter it's becomes like the city slope for all the kids and adults to get their sleds and sled down. And we did that many times. Then my sister turns her birthday is during the holidays, so we actually had a puppet built in her likeness by David Fino and the Brooklyn Puppet Conspiracy. And then we shot it sledding down that hill amongst doing other things. Because of COVID, we couldn't see my sister over Christmas, so we kind of made her a video.
Well, that's still cool that you get to do that.
Yeah.
Now, for any of you listeners who don't know, Paul is another one of the Muppet performers. He has done Sesame Street, the Muppets, the Disney Muppets franchise. He's done Between the Lions, not Bear in the Big Blue House, Book of Pooh, Crank Yankers, and has done work with Disney Channel on the shows Crash and Bernstein and Dog with a Blog. And I have a feeling that Paul and I are going to have a lot to talk about tonight. So let us begin. What got you interested in puppetry?
I was always a big fan of the Muppets and Sesame Street when I was a kid. Huge fan of both of those. Mm-hmm. And I would watch the Muppets in Muppet Show in reruns at 7:30 at night. I can still see the ad in the TV guide. And of course, I watched Sesame Street in the mornings. And I just was a huge fan of the Muppets. And then in later years, I became a big fan of puppetry in general.
So what was your very first ever puppeteering job?
I'm sorry, my phone. Put that on pause. My first job that I actually got paid for on any regular basis was in college. I started work. I went to college in Los Angeles, and I got a job with the Bob Baker Marionette Theater, which actually auditioned for Bob Baker himself. And I would go to classes in the morning and then go in the afternoons and puppeteer, or maybe it was reverse. Maybe I did the reverse of that. But that was my first long time puppet gig, and that continued after I graduated. But prior to that, I built my first puppet in high school for a high school production of Pippin. And then I tried building more in college. I soon discovered I just wasn't a good builder, and I really didn't enjoy it, so I kind of dropped that. But yeah, I'd say my first full-time puppet gig was the Bob Baker Marionette Theater.
Nice. And then eventually that went into finally doing the Muppets and Sesame Street. How did Sesame Street come about?
I had moved to New York to actually do puppet slams. I had met some really great puppeteers who lived in New York and New Jersey who were doing kind of late night cabaret stuff, which really interested me. And so I moved out here, to the East Coast to do that. And then while I was here, my first year that I was in New York, I auditioned for Disney's The Book of Pooh, which was a show they were doing based on Winnie the Pooh.
I loved that show as a kid.
Thank you. Yeah, we really enjoyed doing it. We had a great time doing it
Mm.
and worked really hard. So I'm glad that you enjoyed that. And met a lot of the Muppet puppeteers on that show. And I think at the end of the second season, I just got a call from Sesame Street asking me if I come in and work a day. I think that I still don't know who recommended me. I assume it was one of the puppeteers I worked with on Book of Pooh. So I went in, and the first job I did there was some music video. We Are All Earthlings.
Was that the one with Jill Scott?
Jill Scott. That was my first puppet gig for
Mm.
Sesame ever.
Mm.
And I think that I did the trunk on the elephant. I remember I was on a ladder. I remember that.
Was it the elephant that Joey Mazzarino often does with the voice like this?
Oh God, I don't think so, because I don't think that I'd have to go back and watch the video. But and maybe it wasn't even an elephant. I just remember I was doing an appendage of some sort, and I was on a ladder. But it was not. I don't think it was Horatio. No.
Okay. That was, I gotta say, We Are All Earthlings is one of my very favorite Sesame Street songs. It's so beautifully written.
It really is. They've done it a few times, I think.
Mm. Speaking of the music of Sesame Street, I was wondering if you ever came across Danny Epstein at all?
I believe so. Yeah. Why do you ask?
A really good friend of mine that was on this podcast is his daughter, Ivy Austin. And every
Really?
time I mention to somebody at Sesame Street that we're close, they're like, "Oh, that's Danny Epstein's daughter."
Oh my God. I don't know if I ever met her.
Okay.
Um, wow, that's very cool. So how did you guys meet?
I sent her an invite to do this podcast via email, and we just chatted for quite a while about her work with Sesame Street. So because of my connection and friendship with Ivy, a lot of people who have had any involvement in Sesame Street at all have kind of told some stories on this podcast about Danny.
No, I definitely have met Danny. I just I don't have any stories to tell,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Uh, Actually, speaking of people who were important to the music of Sesame Street, for the listeners who don't know, unless you saw that little 3-second clip at the very start, Sesame Street recently lost Mike Renzi. And if you don't know who Mike Renzi is, Mike Renzi was musical director. Like in the case of Lou Berger was head writer during my single digit years, and he came on this podcast, of course. Mike Renzi was music director for my single digit years. Like I remember always loving the songs. There's something in the air today. I think that was one that he did. So I was wondering if maybe you knew Mike Renzi also.
I definitely knew Mike Renzi, and he was just one of the nicest guys and the most talented guys I've ever met in my life. Yeah, and what a smile. I am. Yeah, when he passed away, I actually looked for some photos, and I was only recently able to unearth a few. Maybe I'll send them to you. But
I'd love to see them.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if you post photos or anything with these podcasts, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, okay, I'll send you a couple. I was able to just find them over the weekend.
Mm,
So yeah, yeah. What an incredibly talented guy, and what a gift to Sesame Street.
mm,
Yeah.
absolutely. So your first role you said was in the We Are All Earthling song. Do you remember the first ever speaking role that you did for Sesame Street? Because you've done a few very sporadically, I think.
First speaking role I did was, I think it was it was me and Joey Mazzarino and Matt Vogel. It was a night of some sort. We had I think there were 3 nights, and I just had one line. I don't even remember what it was, and I don't even remember what the bit was. I do remember the next thing I did was this ambulance driver in this A's Anatomy sketch, which was a lot of fun.
Oh, I love that skit.
Yeah, yeah, that was a blast. I got a bunch of photos from that too. And yeah, I think the next thing after that I did was a duck, and then yeah, just kind of yeah. Yeah.
And recently you've done the speaking role of Clem on Sesame Street, who, if any of the listeners don't know, Recently, Sesame Street introduced a Muppet in foster care named Carly. And if you want to check that out, just click the corner of the video. There'll be a link right there if you want to see that. And Paul plays Clem, which is Carly's for now father, they describe it as. And I got to say, that was really well done. That was really well done the way that you handled it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we did a few videos, and Carly and Clem, Dahlia, his wife, have been on Sesame Street, the actual street, for one episode.
Do you think maybe we'll see more of them?
I hope so. I really hope you see more of Carly. I think she's a really phenomenal character and so well done.
She's so adorable too.
So adorable, but so real. I don't know. I really I do love her. And yeah, thank you for saying that. Those two videos we did that I think are up on Sesame Street and Communities were really beautiful.
Yeah. I was talking to Norman Stiles a couple of months ago about some of the really, really serious stuff that Sesame Street's done. Like, of course, the death of Mr. Hooper, which he wrote. Snuffy Revealed, which to me as a kid, that one didn't really seem like much, because when this is going to make my parents feel old, but when my parents were watching Sesame Street in their youth, Snuffy was just assumed to be Big Bird's imaginary friend, because he was never there when Big Bird would say, "Look, this is my friend, Mr. Snuffleupagus," and they're like, "Where? There's nothing there. If he was here before, he was gone, and he clearly wasn't here to begin with because he's your imaginary friend." And then when Norman started talking about the reason that they had the adults had the adults believe in him, I thought to myself, "Oh my God, like I never really would have made that connection." It was such a shock to me to think of that.
Yeah. It is not something I never thought about when I was a kid either.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's a very serious thing. So I'm glad they made that change. I am a little sad that he didn't stay
invisible,
but that's only, I think, my youth and my nostalgia talking there. There's a little bit of that magic that's gone, but
perfect for a show like this, nostalgia talk.
Yeah. I miss that. But I absolutely get it. It was definitely the right call.
Yeah,
for sure. I miss talk about nostalgia. My favorite thing from Sesame, and I know it's on YouTube, I just have to watch it, is the trip that they took to Hawaii. You ever see that?
Yeah. Oh God, that was so well done.
Oh, I have not seen that since I was a kid, but that is one of my strongest memories of joy. Is just them searching for Snuffleupagus Mountain.
Yeah. Speaking of Snuffy being supposedly invisible.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Those were really good. Yeah, it's a shame that they don't do that as much anymore, because it could really invite kids to new locations that they're not familiar with, because Sesame Street is just this inner city street, and then they go on location. They've been to New Mexico, Montana, Hawaii. That's really incredible.
Yeah. I think, what was it, just 2 years ago, they did kind of a tour, but I don't think that was filmed. I just think Big Bird.
I think it was actually.
Was it filmed?
Was it the Sesame Street road trip?
Maybe that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, because they did have Big Bird's road trip across America was shown, where they would be talking to kids in different places.
Okay. All right. Okay. Great. Yeah, you're right. I wish they did do more of that. I don't know why they don't. I mean, I'm sure expense has a little bit to do with it. But you're absolutely right. Like, opening up those new worlds to kids is very important, especially to a great majority probably who don't have the ability to travel around and see all that stuff.
So, do you have any celebrity stories from Sesame Street? Because you've been with Sesame Street for almost 20 years, and there have been so many celebrities that have come on the show in the last 50 plus years that it's been going on.
Celebrity stories.
Or anyone that you really enjoyed working with that was a guest?
Yeah, gosh, there's so many. Jimmy Fallon was an absolute delight. He couldn't have been happier to be there. it's always really awesome when you have guests who are just as excited to be there as you are to have them. Oh, who is the star of the Broadway star of Hairspray? What was his name? It's a deep guttural voice. Oh God, he was he was in the song Everything's Coming Up Noses.
Harvey Fierstein.
Harvey Fierstein. Yeah, he was. Forgive me, I'm terrible with names. He was hilarious, and it was my job, I guess, to hand up these noses through this box to him that he would just magically pull out like an endless amount of noses and stick them on the puppets, which is also really great. Like you don't see a lot of that anymore. Just noses being taken off and put back on. There's a lot of back in the old days. But anyway, I had to hand him those. I remember every now and then he would just like tickle my hand as a joke. So it was hilarious. Like grab it.
My God.
But speaking of him, he was so funny because it was the set of Sesame Street, and he just started to tell the most off-color joke. I can't remember what it was, but I remember he had us all rolling, but at the same time slightly mortified because he was telling this really body joke on the set. I can't remember what it was, but he was great. Who else? Yeah, that's a good question. We've got I don't know, let me think about it as we're talking.
I'm sure that there'll be many that come to mind.
Yeah. Sure.
So moving on a little bit from Sesame Street, let's talk a little bit about the Muppets franchise. You've done quite a bit of work with the Disney Muppets. What was it, speaking of celebrity, what was it like to do that little crossover Studio DC almost live with the Muppets and the Disney Channel stars at the time?
That was very cool. I really enjoyed that for a lot of reasons. I mean, I just loved working with the Muppets. I always do.
How could you not?
But yeah, we shot that up in a studio that was in an industrial park in LA, and they had all of those Disney child stars there. And what I took away from that experience is that pretty much all of them were at a young age super professional. I guess I don't know if I expected them to be children, but they all really presented themselves completely on top of their game, on top of the fact that they were all really talented. I mean, as actors, as singers. So it was clear to me why they all had their own shows on the Disney Channel. Like they all had their stuff together, and that was really, really great. It's just great to work with people who are super professional. But I don't know why at the time I remember being surprised that across the board, pretty much all of those kids were playing their A game, and not in a they weren't pushing anyone away. They were very open as well. So it was for me at least, it was a very good experience. And I think, I don't know, I was actually proud of a lot of the bits that we did on that. I love the Beaker song that he did with was it Demi Lovato?
Yes. That was the one that they did in Camp Rock.
Oh my God. I got to do Beaker's hands for that, or at least Beaker's right hand, I think. And yeah, that was a beautiful song.
It's funny. It was recently my friend Emily's birthday, and happy birthday, Emily, if you're listening, or should I say happy belated birthday?
Happy belated birthday, Emily.
And I found this old video. We went to elementary school, junior high, high school, and college together. And I can't drive. I know that's pathetic. I'm 22 years old and I can't drive. So she used to be my drive to college. And I remember one day we were on our way to school, and she's like, "The Jonas Brothers are getting back together. That just makes me want to listen to the Camp Rock soundtrack." So I have a video of her and I screaming that song "This Is Me" at the top of our lungs.
Oh my God, I'd love to see that video.
I'll send it
It's
to you.
really,
It's pretty
it's
funny.
really a great song. Like it really is. It's really a great song. I listened to that on a loop after that shoot.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. Well, I also just love, like, Camp Rock is a great movie. I also love all of the High School Musicals.
Mm.
Yeah. Disney does it right.
Yeah. Well, a lot of Disney Channel shows, some of which I'm gonna get to eventually, because there are some that you worked on that I want to talk about. But a lot of Disney Channel shows that were around, like when I was a teenager,
Yeah.
really were a big influence on me in my writing, because I would watch some of these shows. What shows were there?
Like, how was it an influence on your writing?
So for shows like Girl Meets World, that was really a show about real life. There was one show on at the time called I Didn't Do It, which I don't know if anybody remembers that show anymore.
No, I don't.
Yeah, but that one in particular, it for one thing, it made me happy. I'd watch it and I'd just be dying laughing. It was like comedic problem solving to me,
Yeah.
in a way. So how it had an influence on my writing was I was a teenager at the time that all of these shows were really, really popular, and I'd watch them and I'd think to myself, that's kind of similar to something that's going on in my life. So I took inspiration from that.
That's great. Did any characters appeal to you? Like, did you like see yourself in any characters?
Occasionally, some of the time, yeah.
Times, yeah. To me, it was kind of the I mean, I was a little older for that generation, but I still really enjoyed the lightness of them, but yet also like how great those songs were and how good the acting was. It was. I just like spectacle. When I create my own shows, I like creating shows that either make people want to get up and dance or just leave them smiling or leave them. I don't know. I just that whole vein of Disney musicals from the 90s, I guess, really appeals to me in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what was it like to do the Muppets movie, like the 2011 Muppet movie that starred Jason Segel? Because that is such an awesome film.
I'm so glad you like it. Yeah. It was, oh my gosh, that was just incredible.
Because it was like bringing back the Muppets to a generation of people who had never seen them before, and plus the parents could take their kids to the theater and be like, "Oh, yeah, I remember that."
Yeah, it was done so well. Actually, that just makes me remember another celebrity from Sesame Street who was also in that movie that I really liked and became friends with, Feist.
Oh, really? She's from here, Nova Scotia.
I wouldn't say we're friends, but like we definitely. I've kept in contact with her, and we've gone to see some of her shows when she's in New York. But she was incredibly nice when we shot what is now a classic Sesame Street bit. Her 1, 2, 3, 4 on Sesame. She was so happy. Talk about a celebrity that was happy to be there. She was so happy to be there. And and then she did a cameo for the Muppets, which was really great. And I remember all the Muppeteers took her out to get pizza afterwards.
Oh, nice.
And to be honest, actually, we said, "Hey, Feist, we're going." Her name's Leslie. We're going to get pizza. Do you want to join? She's like, "Oh, heck yeah!" So she, I remember she took I don't know if they had Uber back then, but she took a taxi or something from her hotel at Universal Studios to this pizza place that all of us were having pizza at, and it's a nice, it's a nice night pizza. And then afterwards, I was driving my parents' white minivan around. That was my vehicle at the time because they still live in Los Angeles. I grew up in LA. And And I remember saying to Leslie, "Hey, do you have a ride back? Do you need a ride back?" She's like, "Actually, that'd be excellent." So I remember
Oh,
Peter Lintz and Leslie Feist and Tyler Bunch, I think, sitting in the back seat, and then Matt Vogel and me. It was just a van stuffed full of puppeteers, and then Leslie Feist sandwiched with Peter Lintz in the back. And we drove her back to her hotel and dropped her off. Um, and I remember as soon as we dropped her off and drove away, Peter Lentz yelled from the back. He's like, "I was just in the back of a minivan with Feist."
okay. I'm actually going to contact Peter and ask him what it was like to be in the back of a minivan with Feist, because Peter and I are good friends.
Yeah, you can definitely talk to him about that. And in fact, whenever I see them out in LA, or if we're there for a shoot or whatever, and I'm driving that van, I think it is remembered as the Feist van.
That's funny. That's hilarious.
Yeah, she was just really down to earth. I loved working with Mickey Rooney on
Oh,
on the Muppets.
nice.
That was great to meet him. My
Mm,
gosh, I mean, come on, golden age of Hollywood, that guy. And he was
yeah.
there just to do a short little cameo at the Warner Brothers lot. I think Bill Beretta has a good story about meeting him that day. If you
I'll
ever
have to
get,
ask him.
yeah, you'll have, if you, are you going to talk to Bill?
I've chatted with him a couple of times.
Okay. Yeah, ask him about meeting Mickey Rooney on that shoot. I think they had a funny interaction.
Well,
Um,
Bill's a funny guy.
yeah, I think it was Mickey that was the one being funny in that particular interaction. But yeah. Oh gosh. So anyway, but yeah, the Muppets was really fun to shoot that movie.
Yeah, I remember going to that with a friend of mine, and for some of the celebrities, because I'm a big celebrity nut. Like if there's somebody I recognize from TV, I'm like, oh, that person's cool. I was 12 back then.
Yeah.
And my friend would be like, oh, who's that one? Who's that one? Who's that one? Because I would be able to identify it more. No offense, friends, but a little bit more quickly than some of my peers would.
No, you definitely seem on top of your game. um, yeah, that's cool. Jason Segel was so nice. And
I
he knew
bet.
his Muppets. He knew his Muppets back and forth.
Mm.
Um, yeah. Anyway, that was a good movie to work on. Really.
Mm.
I'm glad you liked it too.
Oh yeah, one of the best, or the best Muppet movie to ever come out of existence. And actually, the last guest that I had on this podcast was Austin Pendleton, who was in the original Muppet movie.
No way.
It's true.
Oh my God. Tell me about that. I can't believe you got to talk to him. That's awesome.
Yeah, I interviewed a guy named Phil Proctor who was in the Firesign Theater comedy troupe, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, I was in a play that Austin Pendleton wrote. I don't know if you know who that is."
What?
And I was like, "Oh my God, I love Austin Pendleton. He's one of my favorite actors." And he said to me, "Really? Well, do you want me to connect you guys?" And it was just like when Norman Stiles asked me, "Have you ever talked to Lou Berger?" And I was like, "No, but I want to." And Norman says to
Oh
me,
my
"You
God.
really should. I'll give you his contact info." Both instances, I was like, "Ba-ding!"
Oh my God. That's amazing. So what did he tell you about? What did Austin say? Did he tell you stories?
Quite a few. Apparently, the shoot of the original Muppet movie was a little bit stressful.
Well, I can imagine. What, and was it just in general stress that comes with a movie, or was
Well,
there like,
apparently, the director didn't really enjoy himself, Jim Frawley.
oh, really? Oh,
But
that's too
Jim
bad.
Henson and Frank Oz really were there to kind of bring everyone together.
Oh, that's the funny thing about making movies, man. Like you can have all that drama behind the camera, or not even behind it, just behind the scenes during the shoot, but then you can end up with just a classic, you
Oh
know?
yeah,
And then sometimes
absolutely.
you can have movies that are just an absolute joy to shoot, and they end up being total bombs. You know, it's so funny. Yeah, wow. I had no idea there was stress like that from James Frawley.
Yeah, neither did I, which kind of surprises me because it looked like such a fun shoot.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder, well, I guess I'll just have to listen to the interview.
So let's talk a little bit about as I said before, I wanted to talk a little bit about Disney Channel stuff that you've done. You were in one of my very favorite Disney Channel shows from when I was a teenager, Crash and Bernstein, where you assisted
Oh,
where you
yeah.
assisted Tim Lagasse. Did I say that right?
You know, you did and you didn't. So everyone calls him Tim Lagasse,
Mhm.
but apparently his name is actually pronounced Tim Lagasse.
Yeah, I I,
And
re- I read it that way, but then Noel and Leslie were referring to him as Tim Lagasse. So
yeah, well, but the reason I say you do and you didn't, and we all did and didn't call him, is because he let us call him Tim Lagasse for decades. And it was only like 3 years ago that I was talking to him, before 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, it was just recently, relatively recently, in my relationship with him, that he corrected me and told me it was actually Tim Lagasse,
oh
but that
wow.
he just lets people call him Tim Lagasse. So I don't know if that was just with me, but I've been, other people started to hear that. So now some people call him Tim Lagasse. I just still call him Tim Lagasse. Honestly, I just call him Tim. But yeah, that's so funny. Yeah. So apparently, according to Tim, his name is actually Lagasse.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Yes. Yes. But I
So,
think you'll be fine calling him Tim Lagasse.
uh, so what was it like to do Crash and Bernstein? Was it a little bit more complicated than like Sesame Street and the Muppets would be?
Um, I think there are definitely some things that were more complicated than Sesame and the Muppets. The pace of it was not, I think, probably as fast as Sesame, although probably a little faster than shooting a movie. Um, and I think in terms of puppeteering, what made it more challenging for us was that we had to be extremely low to the ground all the time, because those sets weren't built up. Everything was on the floor, but you had a family like sitting on couches and stuff that also were almost never built up. Maybe if anything, they were put on a couple of half apples or raised a little, but you got so many wide shots in that I don't think they did that a lot. So Tim would be on basically on his back, not often on the floor, but he had a really low rolly that he would roll around on. And then I would just try to scooch in depending on the shot wherever I could hide myself. Um, so I remember that. I remember we had to be very, very low all the
Mm.
time,
Yeah, it seemed
unless we're,
like it.
yeah. Because on Sesame Street, you can be kind of sitting on a donut on a rolly and get the puppet to the height of the human. But like I said, for those reasons that I mentioned, Tim was always very low. But Greg Bellora, who was the puppet captain and the head builder on that show, have you talked to him?
I have not, no.
Absolutely great interview. You should definitely contact him and talk to him. What a career! What a career that guy has had, both as a puppet builder and a puppeteer. And he built the most amazing rods for these puppets that you'll have to let him explain it. But that allowed these rods allowed Tim to basically lay the rods. Tim would be laying horizontal on the floor, and he'd have the rods basically horizontal, basically flat to his chest, but the way that they were connected, and there was a certain looseness to them, the way they were inserted allowed Tim to get all of this movement with these arms that I really think only could have worked with these specific rods that Greg Bellora came up with. So yeah, I remember that as well. I remember thinking many times, Greg really saved really saved a lot of this puppetry. He allowed, his invention there allowed for a lot of real dynamic movement that I think Tim might not have had otherwise.
Mm. Yeah, it did seem a little bit complicated, but at least he was there for that,
Yeah,
Greg. Mm.
yeah.
And you
But
also
I'm sorry,
did.
what was your question? I don't remember what the question was.
I think you answered it.
Oh, did I?
I think we covered it.
It was something about, was it faster or slower to shoot that shot? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think that was pretty thorough.
Yeah, it was a really, really fun show to shoot. And Tim is a ridiculously talented human being. And
And as Crash, he was so funny because Crash was like the only other boy in that family. So, and I still remember in the very first episode when they took what was his name, Wyatt. Did I say
Yeah.
that right? Yeah, Wyatt.
Yeah.
Yeah. They took him to build a Bestie, that store,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
build this thing. He wanted it to be very manly like.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, we got this manly doll running around the house wreaking havoc.
Oh my God. I mean, I really think there was a lot of Tim in that character. It really, certain, it was, anyway, Tim was really, really good in that role. And he just made it a very fun set, to be part of. And he also just is very knowledgeable because he's also a builder and he's just got a lot of experience. I mean, he kind of always knew exactly what was needed. So there was a certain level of efficiency working with Tim that allowed for a lot of play that I think, often may not be there. So yeah, I have nothing to say, but what a pleasure that show was to work on.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of that old sitcom Alf.
It did. The difference was with Alf, I'm pretty sure they had a built up stage, and that the puppeteers could walk around, and they had a lot more movement. I don't think he was. I think it was they were stuck on the ground as we were. But yeah, it was definitely, there were a lot of similarities with Alf for sure. I think they did a pilot later on with Crash and Bernstein that didn't have that was in a camp. I'm not sure about
was
that.
Was it Commando Crash?
Right.
Yeah, I did hear about that. It's unfortunate that we never got to see it, but I'm surprised that because of Crash's antics that he wasn't already in military school right at the very first episode.
Yeah, right. It's so funny when you think about like what's a success and not, because clearly that show had an impact on you. And I know that it was really popular. I just thought it was so great. You just never know why shows go on and why they stop sometimes,
Yeah.
I feel like that show could have gone on for a decade, it was just so much fun. But
there are a lot of Disney Channel and Nickelodeon shows that had a big influence on me that didn't last long, unfortunately.
Yeah, like name one.
Well, one is I Didn't Do It, which I mentioned before. The other big one for me was Bella and the Bulldogs, which was a Nickelodeon show.
Okay.
And I remember watching that. I actually took a trip to LA and it was brand new and a new episode was on. And there was an episode where, so basically the plot of the show is it's this high school football team with a female quarterback, and she made a promise to her team, we're going to the playoffs. And then she has this dream, what would happen if we don't go to the playoffs? And then her hand starts shaking. And I remember watching that and I'm like, that's me. I'm going through a very similar situation to that right now.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So that was the big one for me.
That is so cool. Wow.
And while I was in LA, actually, I remember seeing, I didn't meet any of them, damn it. But I remember seeing the casts of many Disney Channel shows. I wish I could meet some of them now. Maybe it'll happen. But one of them was Dog with a Blog, which you were on. Can you talk a little bit about that?
They shot Dog with a Blog in the studio right next to our studio. So you could walk out the door of the soundstage of Crash and Bernstein. Well, I'm sorry, not the same studio. It was the same studio lot, but at the soundstage, they were right next to each other. So you could walk out of the door of Crash and Bernstein, walk 20 yards, and then just walk right into Dog with a Blog. They were right next to each other. And they needed a puppeteer to do those legs for that dog when he was typing on his blog, and then eventually to do more stuff. And so since we were right next door, since we were right there, and since I had a little more time than Tim did, given the workload that he had on that show, they just asked me to come in and puppeteer the legs. And they were really cool little mechs. It was basically like these little puppet arms that were dog legs, and you can just type them up and down. There's little, I think there was a little mech. Now I can't remember, but yeah, it was just as simple as that. Just get in front of the camera, get in front of the keys, and then just type away. But the guy who did, or whatever the heck else we were doing, often it was more than just typing. But the guy who did the voice of the dog was on set as well, and so he would read all the lines live. And yeah.
One of my favorite moments that involved Stan on Dog with a Blog, which
Right.
seemed to this particular scene seemed to have a lot of puppetry style stuff in it, but it was where he's like, "Oh, when you're nervous, just do what dogs do: put your tail between your legs." Oh, but you don't have a tail. Now I regret cutting in the back of your bike shorts. And then realizing that, puts his tail between his legs. But but the other one I really liked was were you helping Stan drive a car?
I honestly don't remember. That sounds familiar. I honestly don't. I might have been.
Yeah, it was the episode where Blake Michaels' character Tyler got his learner's permit, and Stan decides to go for a little bit of life on the road, crashes into a tree, and he's like, "Where's the blue bag when you need one?"
Oh my God.
I mean, I didn't watch that show too much, but what I watched was funny.
Yeah, it was funny. He was funny. Yeah. Steven. Yeah, he was really, that was a good show. Do you know how many seasons that went?
That went on for 3 seasons.
3 seasons. Okay. All right.
I remember when I was in LA, I walked into, it was for a Disney conference, the D23 Expo. Do you know what that is?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's actually where I met Peter Linz. He was walking around and I spotted him right away. And I said to my mom, "That's one of the Muppet guys." So I think that day I walked into the convention center, like the main floor, and I saw the Dog with a Blog cast actually doing photo ops. And
oh my gosh.
I wasn't in line. I was too late because I didn't get a bracelet, but I remember seeing Blake Michael taking a selfie, and I'm just waving to him like a maniac. Hi.
Oh, that's so cool.
Blake, cool. If you're listening, leave a comment if you remember that.
Yeah, and give a call. Have James do an interview.
I would love that. I would totally love that because I'm and Landry Bender was also there that day too. Who was a
God, what a talent that girl is, man.
Yeah, I love her.
Everyone on everyone on Crash and Bernstein were great.
Mm-hmm.
And and a lot of them have had a lot of success since then as well. So
yeah,
Mary Birdsong, oh my God. Anyway, yeah. What a very good cast.
Mm-hmm. Earlier we were talking a little bit about Book of Pooh, and that had a lot of green screen stuff in it from what I've noticed, because I used to watch that show. Like I was a big Winnie the Pooh kid. Actually, at that D23 conference, I met Jim Cummings, who is of course
no way.
Yeah, he was there. I got a picture and an autograph from him. That was pretty cool.
Gosh, that's so cool. Was it a nice experience?
It was, because I grew up watching him all my life. I said to him, "Jim, I want you to know that I grew up listening to your voice on House of Mouse, Winnie the Pooh, Goof Troop, Darkwing Duck, and you've been an inspiration all these years." And so he thanked me as Darkwing Duck.
No way.
I wish I videotaped it. I could have just held up my phone and been like, "Could you do that again?"
Oh my gosh. What a great experience.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So
isn't it cool to meet the people that you've always been inspired by?
Oh yeah, like right now, for example.
Oh well, please, thank you.
And the many guests I've had come on this show: Lou Berger, Marty Robinson, Bob Bergen. Where do I end?
Yeah.
The list goes on and on. So with Book of Pooh, because it was green screen stuff, was that a little bit more challenging to do?
I don't think it was challenging because of it being on green screen, but the style of puppetry was uh, it was a challenge. These are tabletop puppets that most pretty much require 3 puppeteers per puppet. And so it's a team. You have to work together and you have to rehearse. You have to know what you're doing to figure it out. You have to be flexible and fly with it when there are 15 other puppeteers smushed up against each other. The camera's flying around. So yeah, it was a challenge. Yes, it was, but I enjoyed the heck out of it, man. It's still one of my favorite puppetry experiences ever.
It's a cute show.
It is a cute show. And I got to work with Noel McNeil, my very first television show, and I was his assist for 2 seasons. I did the arms and he did the head of Rabbit, and I just couldn't have asked for a more generous puppeteer to work with. He really just gave me all the leeway to do what I wanted on that puppet. And then when he was gone, he was more than generous to let me do the head. So it was really an ideal experience.
Yeah, Noel is a very nice guy.
Yeah, very nice guy, very smart, and of course very talented. I hate to say it goes without saying, but it goes without saying.
So what are you working on right now? Any new projects happening?
Well, right now I am in Chicago and I am working on the last 2 months of shooting for season 1 of Don Quixote.
Oh, I'm loving Don Quixote.
I'm so glad you are. Yeah, we've been shooting that. Well, the show itself has been shooting for almost 2 years now. There were a lot of COVID related delays.
God.
But come December 3rd, I think this show will be, the first season at least, will be in the can. And yeah, it's just, I'm very happy to be working on this.
Awesome. Yeah,
very cute show.
Yeah, I've been watching it recently, and oh my God, it's really, really good.
Yeah. It's yeah, if you haven't checked it out, internet world, check it out. It's everyone is just smashing it. It's hopefully Mr. Rogers will be very proud of it. and right prior to this, I was finishing up the 6th season of Crank Yankers. We just finished that up a few months back.
Oh, nice.
So that'll be, I think that season will start showing into this year. So that was my
congratulations on the reboot of that show, by the way.
Thank you. I'm so excited it came back.
Yeah, they've had quite a lot of TV show revivals lately that have been very successful. So
yeah, who would have thought that show though, man? That went off the air in 2007. And to come back for not 1 season but for 2 seasons, just and to bring the whole gang back together for the most part, bring all the puppeteers and the whole creative team. It was just like, it was like getting the gang back together. Yeah. And it's also just one of the most, it's probably the most difficult show I've ever and will ever work on in my life. It is,
but it's fun.
It's fun. But there is no show that will consume your time as a performer like that show, because all of those calls have to be memorized backwards and forwards, and it takes an incredibly long time to do that with a phone call where people are just speaking off the cuff. It's not like memorizing a song. And so yeah, we work very hard on that for a show that a lot of people think is just a goof, but I'm very, very proud of it.
So let's wrap it up with a fan question that a listener sent in for you. This actually goes back to Sesame Street. Anthony Thompson was asking about a Sesame Street segment called Meal or No Meal, which obviously is a Deal or No Deal parody, hosted by Howie Eats Well, played by Matt Vogel. And there were these puppet models by the names of Paula, Erica, Carmen, Joey, and Leslie. I was going to ask Leslie Carrera this, but did you puppeteer the character of Paula, and were all the other puppeteers that those characters were named after puppeteering them as well?
Oh my God. Did I puppeteer Paula? It sounds like that was named after me.
I think it was. Because
Well,
Eric Jacobson,
right.
Joey Mazzarino, Leslie Carrera Rudolph, Carmen Osbar.
That had to have been me. I honestly, like, I don't remember, but I would imagine that was me doing that. Yeah.
Well, Anthony,
Oh
I
my.
hope that answers your question.
I am the worst when it comes to memorizing details like that. I forgot all about that. What was the name of that sketch?
Meal or no meal.
Oh my God, I've got to go back and check that out now. Yeah, it sounds like
I'll put a link in the corner of the video.
okay. Yeah, it sounds like that was probably named after me, and that was probably puppeteered by me as well. Sorry, I can't give you a better answer, Anthony.
It, it may have been ad libbed.
It might have been. It might have been. I
Mm.
might not have been puppeteering it at all. That's a
Yeah.
mystery that none of us will ever have the answer to, unless you ask one of the puppeteers who has a better memory.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Leslie and see what she says.
She's actually going to be here in Chicago tomorrow. She's shooting a couple episodes of Don Quixote. So
Oh wow.
she is. I think she's already here at the hotel, probably in her room right now. But uh,
Oh,
but yeah, we're all going to go in tomorrow, and she's going to be here for 4 days, and we're going to shoot some. Cannot say what it's about, but it's a very, very funny episode that she's coming in to do.
I bet because
Um,
it's such a funny show.
oh, thank you. Yeah, she's got a very uh, very funny character she's going to be doing, and it's I think it's going to be very fun for the audience too. So,
Mm. Well, Paul, thanks for coming on Nostalgia Talk tonight. Is there anything else you'd like to say to finish up?
so tell me about yourself. Like, how did you get into puppets and stuff? How did you become a big like fan or puppet? Like, tell me a little bit about you.
So, puppets, animation, writing, film, and all that stuff, it all kind of came the same way just from watching TV. It was stuff that my parents had watched years before I was born. Like my parents were young when Sesame Street started, and then when I was born, I was introduced to it and kind of really liked the Muppets, Fraggle Rock, and bunch and Between the Lions as well.
Yeah.
Love that show.
What
And
a great show, man. That is, I think that is, I don't want to say best. I think you get yourself in trouble when you do that. But I really think that ranks up there with Sesame Street.
yeah, I mean, I tell this story a lot on the podcast because I've interviewed so many people with a connection to that show. But when I landed Chris Surf to come on here, I knew we had to talk about Between the Lions, so I went back and watched a couple of episodes. It is the first time in God knows how long, so long since I've seen that show, and the theme song plays and it's starting to look familiar, and then it gets in that really jazzy gospel sound, and I started bawling my friggin' eyes out.
Oh my God, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Oh, you
Mhm.
got to talk to Christopher Surf.
And yeah, Chris Surf, Norman Stiles, Emily
You
Kingsley, Lou
you have
Berger.
you've really got to talk to some really special people.
Thank you.
Right? Did you talk to Chris Surf about his dad, Bennett Surf?
A little bit, yeah. He talked a little bit about Bennett.
I just want to interview him about his whole childhood and his parents and everything. Anyway, that's so cool. It sounds like you've really talked to some great people. What was your very first Muppet memory?
My first Muppet memory was it was a segment from Sesame Street with Bert and Ernie where Bert caught Ernie eating cookies in bed and basically warned him, don't eat cookies in bed because you'll get crumbs in the sheets. You get crumbs in the sheets, they'll get in your pajamas. You get crumbs in your pajamas, you're not going to be able to sleep. So don't eat those cookies
Right.
when you're in your bed. So Ernie thinks that over and then goes over to Bert's bed and says, I'm going to eat cookies in your bed. I said to Norman Stiles, who wrote that skit, to be fair, you didn't say anything about not eating cookies in Bert's bed. You just said,
Right.
don't eat cookies in Ernie's bed.
That is an excellent memory.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's
So
really
that
cool.
back in 1999, when I was just a few months old, that was probably my first Muppet exposure.
You know, one of my very first Muppet memories is not even watching the show. It's a very distinct memory of already being a fan of the show, and the Muppet movie had just come out or was coming out. It probably had just come out. And
Like the original from the 70s?
the original.
Wow.
And And yeah, I was born in 1973. And I remember that, I don't know if they did this when you were growing up, but they used to have something called scholastic book fairs.
Oh yeah, we had those at my elementary school in Waverly for years.
Waverly, where?
Nova Scotia.
My grandma Viv grew up in Nova Scotia.
Really? That's so interesting.
I am going to be going to Nova Scotia at some point to see if I can find some of the tombstones of my relatives. That's so cool. I've never been.
You'll have to let me know. You'll have to let me know when so that we can meet up.
Yeah, I absolutely will. That's so cool. So the memory I have is it was a scholastic book fair, and I guess they would happen sporadically, but you'd always get this is pre-internet, you'd always get a little sheet with all the books that they were selling ahead of time, so you kind of choose what book you wanted. So there were whatever, or maybe you ordered ahead of time. I don't remember exactly how it went, but I remember going to the book fair with my mom, and the only book I wanted was the Muppet Movie book. It was like a full, it was like this big, and it had all the pictures from the movie, and it was like basically the story. It was like a picture book, but it had all the.
Right.
Have you seen it? You know what I'm talking about?
I kind of do.
Okay, I'll send you a picture of it. I know I've got it somewhere, probably back at home. But anyway, it was a really nice like storybook of the Muppet Movie. And I remember my mom, who knew I was a massive Muppet fan, she's like, "No, you can't have that. You can have anything else." It's like, what? No, that's the only book I want. She's like, "Choose anything else." So I remember crying, like heartbroken, and choosing something else, maybe Encyclopedia Brown. I don't know. But then of course my mom had already bought that book for me and gave it to me at Christmas. So I remember that being really, really amazing. And then 3 years later, I remember going with my grandma to a bookstore, and the same type of book had come out, but it was for the Great Muppet Caper, and saying to my grandma Margaret, I really want. She was going to buy me a book. I was like, can I please have this Great Muppet Caper book? It's all I want. And she's like, no, get something else. So I was like, oh, I know this one. And so I got something else, waiting for that gift. And then when my birthday came, that wasn't the gift. And I was like, but I've been waiting for it. I think it's expecting it. I was like, weren't you going to get me that book? She's like, oh yeah, no, I thought someone else was getting that for you. That's why I told you no. And so I didn't get that. And then, but this was before Amazon. This was before the book had already left the stores. And I remember it was like another 20 years before I finally found that book again. It's really cool. I don't know if either of those stories are particularly engaging, but they're very specific to my brain. I remember, wow, yeah, I really wanted those books.
Cool. Well, thanks again for coming to Nostalgia Talk.
Thank you so much. What an absolute pleasure, and congratulations on what is a very cool thing you've created.
Thank you very much. And to the listeners, I will see you on the next Nostalgia Talk, episode number 40. I don't know when that'll be, but I'll do my best. And if you're Canadian like me, hope you have a good Thanksgiving over the weekend. Peace.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.